Right, with the cylinder heads all torqued up, generally speaking what I do is run round, once you've basically gone to the final torque setting, is just run through the whole lot all again. That's just in case when you've torqued it down it has gone unevenly, and it might just leave, and then you've sort of gone round, started with one, then you've gone round to the others, it might have a slack one still there. That's why I tend to go down in 2 stages and then just do a final, just whistle through the whole lot, just to be double sure. Really, that's all, doesn't hurt, and you don't get any sort of any of the head studs sort of relaxing and the nuts coming undone sort of later on. We always retighten these after on a first engine service. You know, change the oil and filter, reset your valve clearances, tighten the heads down again. That's the sort of standard procedure as we do on a first service after, say, 1,500 miles, something in that region. So the heads are all torqued down. Now we can pop the cover back off again, the cam carrier, bits and pieces, something that's quite substantial usually. Don't want to damage anything. So just comes off the dowels. Right, once that's done, we always check the cylinder heads to make sure they're level. Now, that's what I was saying earlier on about the fact that when you machine the barrel gaskets or barrel decks, you have to machine the barrel decks because the blocks sag. If this hadn't been machined, we'd have something in the region of a 10 thou gap underneath the straight edge in the centre, which then obviously translates across to when you bolt the cam carrier on, that pulls the cam carrier down 10 thou, and when you work on the assumption that a cam shaft has 3 thou clearance to bore, you're then basically building a tight engine that's going to potentially be a failure because you're going to have a tight camshaft. Or it will physically lift the head up and cause an oil leak around the barrel gasket in the centre. That's why we always, you know, people who say that just going to have a top end rebuild on a magnesium case engine, we wouldn't ever even entertain that because of these issues that you would get. So, you know, just do the job properly, or just sort of don't do it at all really. It might sound sort of you know, a bit of an arrogant attitude, but it's just the way we do business basically. You know, we'd rather we not do the job than you bring a job back and sort of complain, oh, it's leaking oil, or, you know, it's a tight engine. So it's just the proper way of doing things really. So we get this ground straight edge, we just work through the cylinder heads. If it looks like there's a gap, basically you get a feeler gauge out, a feeler blade out, and see how much it is. But as we've machined all these, as you'd expect, everything's absolutely straight as a die. So that's good, and that's now ready for the final fit of the cam carrier up. Can fit the chain chest up as well. The 574 sort of works as a lubricant as well. I always put a bit in there, and obviously it works as a sealer. We put a little bit on the seals, and it just makes life a little bit easier for getting them in there, to be honest with you. Yeah. And then it seals as well. So basically just pop those in there, just rotate them around a bit, and they just fall in the holes. And then we basically put all the sealer on the other side of the engine. We put a bit on the top here, just so it's sort of, once again, bit of a seal, bit of a lubricant as to reassembly. It's all clear. Time-consuming job, but one that needs to be right, otherwise you get oil leaks around the back of the engine or around the back of the cam carrier. Yeah. Just covering all your main through-bolt holes, and obviously around where the valve spring sits through. Sort of manufacture just your simple bead of 574. As long as you've got a continuous bead, you'll always have a seal. A lot of people sort of say, "Oh, brush it on." It's a similar sort of principle to as we sort of said earlier about the crankcase halves when you put the sealer on that. As long as you've got a continuous bead, you know you'll have a seal. When you consider that's probably standing up about 1.5 millimeters or 1 millimeter, you'd have to have a pretty poor gasket surface not to clear 1.5 millimeters. Right, that's ready to go on. It's all good. Generally speaking, you have to give it a little bit of a tap down. And you tap on the structural parts where there's actually a lot of meat around there. You don't want to sort of damage anything across the top here. And then get the spring washers on and torque it all up. That's the next stage. These cam carriers have been completely stripped down. What we do is we pull the end bungs out, and then we pull the spray bars out. Now on the 2 litre cars, particularly the earlier ones, they only had 2 squirter holes. So we basically modify them so they're the same as the later type with the 3 holes, and that's the extra hole there, the one you can see just there. And then we media blast the whole thing, basically pressure wash them all out, so obviously there's no sand left in there, and then refit the tube, always making sure you get in the right around, yeah. And then just turning up new bungs and just popping those in the holes. It just makes the whole thing. The amount of engines we've stripped down with camshaft failures over the years, you just end up with little bits of sealer where they've been sort of badly built and things like that over the years. Yeah, basically take them out. Peace of mind, you know everything's fine then. That's all it is, just checking everything. Making sure everything's 100%. The other thing about going through the process and putting the barrel cooling tinware in is the fact that if you do forget to put it in, you put the cam carrier on and you put the tubes in, there's no way you're going to get those back in there afterwards, so you end up having to take them all apart again. I think you only do it a couple of times.
I was going to say, spoil your day.
That's right, you do it a couple of times and you never ever forget after that. Yeah, just when you think you're sort of really getting ahead of the game.
Okay.
We've fitted up the chain guides actually in the actually in the engine already. These sort of fit down inside the engine. These always fit long end facing towards the gear. So the 4 that run here, those will be facing the internal gear, and the ones in the chain chests will point towards the sprocket. This does actually show you in the technical book, you know, you don't worry too much about it. And there's an odd one that actually fits down here. Now the way we remember this is British Rail, for all your English viewers. That won't make a blind bit of sense to anybody else. The odd one basically goes down there, and what that is actually it's slightly lower on the ramp, but that fits in basically on the bottom right. So that's the way we sort of remember it, and it's a slightly lighter colour than the others as well. It's a lighter brown, you find. So now we're sort of ready to fit the camshafts up, put the rockers in, The next job will be setting up the chain alignment, which is all done off the front face of the engine. Yeah, the engine's sort of getting quite close to being a full long motor. Yeah, it's all looking good, it's going together very well.
So we're at a stage now where the long block is pretty much complete. With the, you can see the camshaft housings are on. What we haven't got at the moment are the S camshafts, and that will be the next and last job, is to fit those and do the cam timing, and then we'll pretty much be all there on the engine, and hopefully next time we'll be looking at a complete engine ready to go in the car. So that's it for now.